mic is muted. Your mic is muted. Okay.
Okay, this is open discussion once again. I'll put together some lessons in the coming weeks.
Can you can you move the mic up a little bit?
Yeah. That's good enough?
Yeah, that's good. Actually, we didn't get into the PowerPoint from last week.
No, we didn't. No.
And we didn't finish the handout from 2 weeks ago.
That we didn't?
Mm-mm.
Well, I was trying to answer a question
Mm-hmm.
to, that was Loretta who asked the question?
That last time?
Yeah, about the mudra yoga. I was answering her question.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and pulled out the notes from years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think we ever publicized that, did we?
No.
So no questions yet?
Not online, no. Yeah. I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
How do you transmute forgetfulness?
Um, there's a lot of methods to doing that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, one of the main methods is, of course, is pranayama,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and then mantra as well, right? And then truthfulness as well too.
Mm-hmm.
When you train yourself to try to speak truthfulness at all times, then you find that your memory becomes sharp and accurate because uh, if you only speak about that which has happened and that which you have proven to yourself to be true, then you have a lot of detail about it. So because you hold dear to that, then you can recall it over and over and over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps memory too. And and just creating the right magnetic wave in the body too. Uh, like not eating foods that's going to damage the uh, the the neural uh, firing pins. Uh, of course, refraining from those type of foods that would do that. Which red meat is a lot of that. It damages the body. It causes you to hold on to a huge amount of decaying flesh in the body. It only serves to poison us. Uh, White flour, another thing that hangs in the body, hangs in the intestinal system for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Those type of things will stop you from processing information properly. So and only the brightest of the brightest can overcome that. It seems like. So, but just those little normal things. It's a lot of different methods. In fact, a good way to study that. I'm trying to remember the book, the Ayurvedic teachings. They teach you the different types of foods and breathing exercises in order to enhance your cognitive ability. On a very basic level, and then you move into pranayama, and then you move into Raja Yoga, which pranayama is part of Raja Yoga and all that. And of course, Bhatha Yoga, which brings on the Bhatha and Kama Yoga, which brings on the laws of truthfulness and and right action and all of that. And when you bring all those things into combination, you become highly, highly, highly cognitive of who you are, where you are right now. And because of that, you can move forward. You can move backwards and forward in time, meaning that you can remember things from far back when.
Mm-hmm.
You can remember you're very conscious in the presence. So then, therefore, you can predict the future too. And that becomes natural because if you know the past and the present, then you know the future. It's just mathematics.
Mm-hmm.
So. There's no other questions?
Not online.
Okay.
Is there a point in your spiritual progress where you will have to take on some of the yogic practices and disciplines?
Yeah, you do it all the time, whether you realize it or not. I mean, you know, that's something people don't realize. Yoga is a way of life, so you practice yoga whether you realize it or not. And that yoga only describes right actions. And a pathway to right actions, because the fact that yoga means union with God. That's what it actually means. So now you have specific yogas that help you to make union with God on a particular pathway. So the good school teacher that serves her class and dedicate her life to teaching, she's a karma yogi
Mm-hmm.
because she'll chose the pathway of service. The firemen are karma yogi because they have chose the pathway to service, and they some of them are probably bhakti yogis too, because they value life, you know, and life is God. So then they devote themselves to preserving life on particular realms of existence, you know. So it's a way of life. It's just not someone twisting their body up in some type of asana, you know, some type of posture. It's not that. It's principles you take on in your life in order to serve a greater good towards uniting yourself with God, you know, down a particular pathway. So whether people want to realize that or not, that's what it is. You know, it's universal and it's in all religions. Yoga, yoga don't belong to Hindu, it don't belong to Buddha, it don't belong to Christianity, Sufism. It doesn't belong to Islam. It transcends all of them. It's a part of all of them. You know, and the mystic yogis tell them that. And that's one reason why in the 1800s, Madame Alaska became so popular, and Anna Passan, and because they put this message out that this is everyone's. This is a practice that every religion should be practicing. It's a part of nature. You know, it is the laws of nature.
To everyone online, today's class is an open discussion, so feel free to ask any questions you may have. Also, please let me know the quality of the audio just to make sure it sounds good for everyone. So, pain or discomfort in the body during, like a spiritual practice or prayer, mantra, or what have you, is that um, a side effect of the karma from raising one's consciousness while being in the physical?
I don't know. I can't say that. I know some effects that you have in in prayer or mantra is because of the energy distribution in the auric body and the physical and subtle
Mm-hmm.
bodies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's normal occurrences. If you're doing certain pranayama, which is controlling of the prana and mantra, uh, the aura begins to spin. And when the aura begins to spin, uh, it affects us. If you can imagine, if you had a fish inside of a bowl and you stuck a stick in there and you began to swirl the water around, it's going to affect the fish, right? So all of us walk around in this bubble called the aura. And when you disturb that bubble, it moves automatically, depending on emotion, all of that. But when you accelerate it by actually calibrating the chakras, because that's what mantra does, and the chakras are made of a sound, right? The chakras are tiny sound vibrations that keeps the body alive, that keeps the physical and subtle bodies alive. So, or connected to a particular realm of existence. So now here you are adopting a physical sound vibration to connect with the subtle sound vibration. And when you do that, what happens is that it calibrates the aura to a certain extent where the aura begins to spin. The physical and gross subtle part of the aura actually begins to spin, and it creates this centrifuge type thing. So what happens when the molecules begin to spin, they rub against each other, right? And they cause this friction, which makes you feel like you got an itch on a physical level, which also makes you feel like something's crawling all over you when you get really intense in it, and it also brings about your head, like something's happening to your head, like somebody done put a band around your head and it's being squeezed. So all those things begin to happen. As many people, at least there's like six to 12 dozen, about a dozen incidents that people say happen to their body. They feel, some of them feel right on the outside of the spine, they feel this rush of energy or pain that goes up and down, which signifies a particular energy in the body. So all those things begin to happen because of the distribution of prana, in my opinion. So you do have those things if you're doing it right. You have to have those things. Those things have to happen to you. And then you move out of that stage where you get used to it, and then you feel your consciousness move above the head for some reason, as though you have some type of partial projection from the body in order to allow the body to become the vessel of that energy to push it out, without having it so discolored by a part of your consciousness that may interfere. So those things happen, when you radiating spiritual energy through your body. And a lot of people have testified that those are feelings they have.
I know at times I'm doing prayer, even though I, relax the body, by the end of it, after I've gotten so into the prayer, like the 12 blessings, my arms will feel stiff, and I'll feel as if I just ran a marathon, even though I was standing in place the whole time. And I have to sit down and kind of relax a bit.
But you don't feel that during the prayer.
No.
Yeah.
It's after.
Yeah. So that lets you know that there's a part of your consciousness that's disconnecting from the body. And you feel yourself up here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you feel yourself up here. You've commanded the body to push the energy out in the best fashion that it can. So the part of your body that worries about the aches and pains and all this stuff, it disconnects. It comes up here, a part of your consciousness, and it allows the body to be the vessel for that energy to come down and be molded and shaped and pushed back out into the world in order to help a particular person, place, or thing.
Mhm.
So when your consciousness fully comes back into the body, then you begin to feel all the aches and pains, and and that's normal.
Mhm.
It's the same way if someone was to if they can raise Kundalini partially,
Mhm.
right? They would notice that in the raising of the Kundalini, they may adopt a particular mudra that's not comfortable, right?
Mhm.
And because normally when they did the lotus is done in a way the lotus is made in a way in order to force the blood, the physical blood, up instead of allowing it to settle down, and it place a pressure on the pelvic region in order to raise consciousness,
Mhm.
because blood carries the physical consciousness, right?
Mhm.
So they do all of that on the physical plane in order to push a particular level of consciousness, but then consciously through Raja Yoga, they train their concentration and contemplation in order to move to partially move the Kundalini.
Mhm.
So now when they get in that position to move to partially move the Kundalini and raise it up to a particular chakra, what happens? They disconnect from the pain.
Mhm.
They may be able to stay like that 20 minutes, 30 minutes with their body all in these locks. But then when they come out of this blissful state, they cripple. They walking
Mhm. Mhm.
around, they can barely stand up erect. They can barely hold their legs correct,
Mhm.
and they almost cripple themselves because they lock themselves in this mudra for all this time.
Mhm.
Sometime people do it for 1, 2, 3 hours at a time, and they cripple themselves to a certain degree.
Mhm.
So, but they don't feel the pain while they're doing it because they they move their consciousness to a different level of existence
Mhm.
in order to obtain certain information, or
Mhm.
or bring about some type of energy manipulation. But when they come back down, they feel it all,
Mhm.
So, and that's what happens. Okay, any more questions? Hmm.
What sort of exercises or practices would you recommend to begin the process of raising the Kundalini?
Um, you need a teacher. You need a guide. I mean, all the yogas are Nana yoga, Kama yoga, Bhatha yoga, Hatha yoga, Raja Yoga, Mantra Yoga, all those yogas, and Mudra Yoga, all those yogas are preparation for Kundalini Yoga. Okay, all of those yogas are. But when you can concentrate to the level where you can begin to try to raise Kundalini, you need a guide. You need someone. Other than that, you can cripple yourself, unfortunately. You need someone who can guide you through uh, those, uh, those first stages of rising to Kundalini. Because if you rise to Kundalini in its full aspect, and you have to be able to bring it back down. If not, then you will surely have to exit the body in order to bring about the process of bringing the Kundalini back down in the body. So it's really not that simple. I mean, you can prep yourself, and when the time is right for you to do that, in most cases, the guide appears, the teacher appears, and to allow you to go through that process. If you prepare yourself through all the yogas, then the teacher will appear in most cases. Either to tell you you're ready or you're not ready, one or the other, if you stay online. But to try to do it, these people say, oh, we could raise Kundalini over the weekend. That's just, and you could partially raise Kundalini, but you're not going to fully raise Kundalini. You could do a partial rise of Kundalini, which we do every day to a certain extent. But to fully move the power of Kundalini, you need a guide, and it takes a while.
With studying the yogas, would you recommend that you study them at the same time, or is there a process that you would recommend starting with one and or a hierarchy, so to speak?
You can pick a pathway, because all the pathways go into the yogas, goes into all the yogas, whether you realize it or not. You cannot study or practice any yoga without studying and practicing Kama Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Jnana Yoga and Kama Yoga is the background fabric of all yogas, of all science, matter of fact. All science, because Jnana Yoga represents the wisdom of the universe. Kama Yoga represents the action of the universe moving in an intelligent or wise way. Because once you learn the equation of something, which is the nanny of that thing, you can always repeat that thing over and over and over and over in the right conditions. So you understand? So it blends itself into everything. But the next yoga that you'll notice the same thing with Bhatha Yoga. Bhatha Yoga means is devoting yourself to God. But sometimes people take that, well, God, But God is what? God is everything. So if you devote yourself to life and preserving life, what have you just did? You just became a spiritual being, and you realize that you have to follow what? The wisdom of the universe. All the equations and that's been laid out there for every action to take, which is karma. Right? So therefore you follow the laws of God, because God has what? God is omniscient, He is all wise. So therefore you know, what happens is that you begin to love and devote yourself to God, which is life, which is law, which is wisdom. So all the yogas blend themselves together like that. Every yoga, and then when you because we're at least we think we are, we so aware of the physical world, right? And the physical world is so tangible to us. But now we understand that there is a law. There's a law that governs everything. So my every action is governed by this law. Is going to cause a reaction, and that reaction might be opposite, but it's going to be equal because why? The law is divine. See, so therefore we move into the mechanism that shape and molds our emotional outbursts to enact wrong or negative energy towards ourselves, which is Raja Yoga, which is the yoga of mental development, right? And we begin to control our thoughts. And the first thing in Raja Yoga is what? It's yama, and niyama, which is control of thoughts and actions. And then the next one is something that we probably already studied, which is niyama, which observe God in everything. Be observant of all your actions. Be conscious of your actions because your actions have a rippling effect upon you. So all the yogas blend together. You know, but people, sometimes we don't pay attention to things. We just we see it, but yet we don't see it. You know, someone which I was going to respond to them through writing. Someone wrote me a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about God and said, "Why does God allow a Satan to do all these things?" And the question I would ask is it Satan? Is God allowing that? If Satan exists, it's because we created the right conditions to allow Satan to exist. See, evil can't come to you or negativity can't come to you if you don't open yourself up for negativity. And sometimes you can open yourself up for negativity by doing nothing. You know, I mean, it just happens. We say, well, I'm not a part of that. And how can you not be a part of something when all of us are connected? Whether you blue, red, yellow, white, whatever, you're connected to that person because everything is what? Everything is God. So you can't throw a blind eye on that thinking that it's not going to erupt, because there's laws, and the pressure will build up so that it will explode so that you do what? Pay attention. And then you move, and then you have to take care of it. You have to take care of it. If you're driving down the road and you haven't put water in your car for the last 6 months, what's going to happen? And you haven't even looked, huh? It's going to die. So that's the whole thing about it. You cannot just say I'm not a part of that, because you are a part of it. And if it is happening, if Satan do exist, then how did Satan come about? You brought it about. You helped you were one of the people who helped bring it about. If you're living here on this earth for the last 18 million years, you helped to bring that about. So and then you put the higher cost, the bodhisattvas or whatever, in harm's way because most likely they will be the person that have to come and take it out. So, in order to allow us to move forward. And that's the only thing I was saying, because God, the supreme absolute, will not interfere in the sense that you think God should interfere, because the law is here. The wisdom of the law is here. All the equations, every formula you need to make it right is here. So the supreme absolute have did everything it needs to do in order to ensure your success. Now you have to give up some free will and work to make sure that it happens. And that's, and that's the biggest difference. But people just don't understand, and people just allow stuff to go on and on and on and on, and they close their eye, even though they know, even just like today. Today is Easter, supposedly, right? But is it truly Easter? Is this the historical fact of? No, it's not. And you know that. You know it's not. You know. Now, do I believe in Easter? Of course. I believe that Jesus resurrected. But the thing about it, reading the story mathematically, it could not have happened on this day. This just doesn't make sense, you know. And Passover couldn't have been on Friday, because, when you look at this, he was crucified supposedly on Passover, right? So then 3 days had to go before he did what? Before he ascended, before he said he would die, he would take 3 days to rebuild his body, and then he will ascend again. So if you put the 3 day, and then according to historical fact, it was supposed to be what? The Sabbath was what? Back then, it was a Saturday. So then that pushed Passover to Wednesday, right? 3 days, you'll fall on what? Saturday. So, but people don't even bother to think about stuff like that. Most people don't. So something's not right here. Something pushed these days closer. Some type of, I don't know, was it politics? Was it marketing? You don't know what it is, but we don't know. But none of it really makes sense. None of it really makes sense when and it harms the truth of the story. It doesn't bring solidarity, solidarity and reverence to this major event that happened in a very public way. That here this great cosmic being physically showed us that death doesn't exist in the sense that you think it exists, But like I said, we keep our eyes closed, and we don't pay attention to things, and it's really sad. It's really, really sad. But yoga is in everything. It's in everything, in all your actions, whether you realize it or not. Some of the greatest yogis on earth never called themselves a yogi, So, but that's what we got to understand. So we got a silent online audience, huh, today? Can they hear us?
I can hear when I switch on the video.
In the past, I don't know, I go back and look and see how we advertised. In the past, on Easter, the places were full up. People was off. They would come in. So. it might be the case.
So yeah, they can hear.
Hmm?
So yes, they can hear.
They can hear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any mudra exercises in particular that I can practice to stimulate the heart chakra?
The prayer method that we use, and the heart chakra is of course mantra stimulates all the chakras to a certain extent. But the prayer method that we use uh, is a way to help stimulate the heart chakra too. And the heart chakra is one of the only chakras that you can actually place a slight concentration on. All the other chakras you shouldn't try to concentrate on at all without the guidance of someone helping you. Okay, because you can bring about a disruption in the flow of energy, you know. But the heart chakra is a chakra that allows uh, energy to move in and out uh, through a conscious effort, through you using a conscious effort. The heart chakra and the hand chakras, it allows you to do that, and you can put a slight concentration on those in order to move energy through. And it makes sense when you begin to study the whole chakra system as well. And you begin to study the flow of energy and how energy moves and all of that. On a Mahabhuta level, and a physical level, and a pranic level. It makes sense.
I had a question about the diagram on the hands and
Mm-hmm.
the points.
Mm-hmm.
I remember on the center, he said there was a bindu,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe I remember you speaking on the bindu. A bindu is a sun. Is that correct?
No, but a bindu, the sun is called uh, for all for purposes of when you look at a sun is a maha bindu, right? So that's a big difference, you know. But a bindu is a what's called. They have several descriptions of a bindu. A bindu is a point of consciousness, okay, in the most simple term. Another term, a bindu, is a compaction of shakti forces or power, okay. Another look at the around wherever there's a bindu, there's also a vortex center or a chakra, because each chakra has a bindu. It has a point of consciousness, and a bindu can be looked at as a spiritual germ. Okay, because the ideal that behind the bindu is the all knowledge space, or the presence of the spirit, and the spirit is a divine spark of the absolute. Okay, so that's how important a bindu is. You know, that's why they call the sun the great bindu, and they call the earth or a planet a maha bindu, a great bindu too. So because why? Because life screams from a sun. Life screams from a planet, or even a moon, Because why? Because without the moon of this earth, we have what? We have no stabilization of what? Of the water and the mental worlds. You know, they collapse upon themselves. You know, that's why if you get dehydrated, you do what? What happens to an athlete? The first thing you notice when they faint, they lose consciousness. They cannot maintain consciousness on the physical world. So the moon regulates and controls the water, and water regulates and controls consciousness in the physical world and the astral and subtle worlds as well of this earth. Okay, so it all makes sense. That's why it screams life. It maintains life. It sustains life in every fashion. You know. So
I have a question.
mm-hmm.
So, Mabel, is it Mabel Collins and Ramacharaka go into it? It said, kill ambition, yet work as though one with ambition.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I understand that's to karma yoga in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
but how is that applied daily? So, does it mean if I set a goal, I work hard to accomplish that goal, but I don't attach myself to whether or not I accomplish it, or
No, I don't think it means that. What it is, is mostly talking about negative versus positive karma on the basic level, on the most basic level.
mm-hmm.
Okay, uh, meaning that the intent, because Dr. King said it better. Dr. George King said it better. The intent behind any action, or he said any magic, because he called actions magic, because you never see the hidden movement behind the action. That's one of the reasons why he called it magic,
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion. He said because in fact he quoted it was Sir Arthur. It was who was it? It was Oliver
Arthur.
Lodge.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was Sir Oliver Lodge. He
Yeah.
quoted him because he was a scientist. And Oliver Lodge said that no one can tell me what happened when I moved my little finger, because there's so much behind that you don't see. So Dr. King said that in mysticism, you call it magic. It's a magical action. Every action is a magical action because there's so many unseen forces, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he described that better. But he brought it to a pen when he said intention. See, because what happened? In order for me to move my finger, I had an intended, I had intention of why I was doing that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that colors the energy of my movement,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if I make a move to be ambitious towards a selfish intention, then I color the energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's messed up.
Mm-hmm.
You go back to his lecture on do not break the magic. See?
Mm-hmm.
Remember his opening statement about that? About the water pool and everything?
Like God's magic is perfect. It's like a still pond that reflects everything that's cast upon it.
That's right. So your intention it means a lot. So when Mabel Collins was talking about when she was talking about cut out ambition, but then have ambition.
Mm-hmm.
You have ambition for the right purpose in order to control uh, uh, the 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 reaction in opposite and equal, in order to make it perfectly balanced within the framework of the laws of karma. So you kill out the negative ambition, thinking that I am an individual, but move forward with the positive, ultra positive ambition that I am connected to the whole, and any and everything I do affects the whole. So I must carefully move forward with my actions. And that's what she was trying to say. That's what she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Dr. King meant when he was talking about the magical action. Because we don't see, we don't think about it. We move around like idiots, like he said,
Mm-hmm.
in an unthinking way. But when you think about it, then you will not do certain things that will harm the us in the present or the future. we would move to carve our actions so that it works out perfectly to bring about a response that will help only move us forward. And when they talking about a double-edged sword and all of that stuff, that's what she meant. That's what, but they were limited in how, and it's very effective. I think her writings are very, very effective because it talks about so much with just a small phrase. There's so much you can read into it. Did I answer your question? You understand? Okay. Did I answer your questions about the hands? Okay. Maybe I need to add that to that diagram because most people don't understand. When I say the Bindu, they get into this cultural thing, with the Hindus or the Buddhists, where they put the dot on top of the head, you know. So, uh, but it's in every chakra too now. Every chakra has a Bindu. And that's where the spirit and the soul translate its information to that physical realm of existence, uh, that subtle physical realm of existence. I guess we can close out if
Yeah, it's really
everybody
quiet
had
online.
Huh?
Really quiet online. I wasn't expecting that.
If you guys don't have no more questions, I guess we can close out.
Oh, wait. One just came in.
But a question just came in.
Where can we read more about the Bindu? Where's my mic so low?
Tantra Yoga. You can read about it in Arthur Avalon, Serpent Power, and Arthur Avalon's book on the Garden of Letters. Also, Swami Sivananda wrote a book called he wrote a book called the Tavas and the Nata. think and the Bhuttas. I think he speaks about it, and in his Kundalini book, Kundalini Yoga book, he speaks about it as well. It's that Swami Sivananda. Arthur Evelyn really goes into it, but it's a hard read. You just make sure you have a dictionary, a Sanskrit dictionary, but it's very enlightening.
You did a series on the serpent power too.
Hmm? Yeah, I
This
did a
season.
series on the serpent power, so you can go back and look at those lectures. I think I went into that a lot. That's free online at the YouTube channel.
Everyone, if you have any further questions, please ask them now.
I have a question.
Hmm.
Um, is there a such thing as like a residual portion of the aura? Like, let's say a person is in one place and then they move to another place. Is there like a residual element of that of their energy?
Yeah, it is. It is. That happens all the time.
Okay.
Like, especially when it depends on a lot of psychics. I know I experienced it myself. You a person can be having a deep conscious a deep thought on something, and then all of a sudden they move and go to another area. And when you look at them, when you look back where they were, you see them still there, but their physical body have moved on. But a shade of them stays there and slowly dissipates. So you see that happen. I remember one of the most vivid times I remember doing it. One day I think I was in the 10th grade, and I was on the baseball field, and I seen one of the teachers slash administrators walk out to one of the coaches, and on the middle of the field and talking. That day I didn't dress out, and I was just sitting on the benches, and then I seen him talking and carrying on. It was a lot of emotion, and he walks away, but a part of his a shade of him stayed there by the coach doing the same thing, running his mouth, moving his hands. I'm saying, what in the world is that? He's walking away. And then I went and studied it and looked it up, and it was, yeah, that happens because he was so emotional about whatever he was telling the coach that he was leaving bits and part of his energy there. Eventually, you'll see it dissipate, and what I'm told, it usually goes back to them or goes into something else. But you always polluting the environment with your thoughts. Okay, so that's why a yogi is taught to control their thoughts and not dissipate so much energy. What the Swami Patanjali said, stop the modifications. You know, so all the because what happens on the edge of the on the aura, the valence level of that aura is very wavy when you allow your mind to exhibit these emotional outbursts, and it goes out and just pollutes and stop you from having a clear train of mind. You notice when you get angry, you can't think straight. You can't think straight. And when you get emotional, you really can't think straight. So yeah, that's what caused that pollution in most cases, or a deep, concentrated thought sometime too. You know, uh, which could have emotions in it too. Okay, so that's it. We can close out.
I guess that's it.
So we can probably start a series this month. If not next week, week after next. I set up a series of lessons.
Okay.
Okay. We can probably go over some old stuff or some stuff that we never really went over.
I prefer the second option.
Huh?
I prefer the second option.
It's always good to go back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's always good to go back because you'll learn stuff that you didn't. You'll see stuff you missed.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always good.
The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. Oh, great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever. Thank you for watching. See you next week.